Hello, all. My name is Cara Lee Brown, and I'm the Assistant Executive Director here at the Institute for Local Government. And I also run our Sustainable and Resilient Communities pillar. I'm very thrilled to be here today celebrating Earth Month with two extraordinary environmental leaders. First, we have Judy Mitchell, who started her career as an attorney, but has served in many roles, including Mayor and Council Member of Rolling Hills Estates, the South Coast Air Quality Management District, and also served on the South Bay Cities Council of Governments, as well as the California District Air Resources Board member. We're also joined by Jim Keene, who has served decades long as city managers in cities like Berkeley and Palo Alto, and most recently is serving as a grandfather. So thank you both so much for joining us today. I really, really appreciate it. As we celebrate Earth Week, I'd just like to start with Judy and ask, is there just one project or activity that you're especially proud of that you've been a part of in the climate space?
Well, I would say it is the electrification of the transportation sector. When I first was elected, we hardly saw any zero emission electric vehicles. And now California has sales in California, about 12% of our cars are electric vehicles. And as I served on California Air Resources Board, they were pretty instrumental in getting that accomplished with their advanced clean cars regulation. And then more recently, the advanced clean trucks regulation. So that requires all sales in California to be fully electric for cars by 2035 and for trucks by 2045. That is monumental. It is just an incredible step and aspirational to some extent, but it looks like we're going to be able to achieve that. So I would say for me, that has been the most exciting part of my career in the environmental space. And of course, transportation emissions are a big source of ozone in our atmosphere. So it will have a big effect on reducing greenhouse gases.
Absolutely. Such a big accomplishment. I'm so excited about that work. And Jim, same question to you. Is there one kind of pivotal moment that kind of really attracted you to this work?
And this is as it relates to things that we have.
Yeah, in the climate space. I mean, you did so much as Palo Alto city manager. Is there one particular thing that really?
Well, I'd say, I mean, Palo Alto was a kind of capstone in my career. It was the last decade of my career, so I built a lot of experience. But it's a great community as far as the alignment of interest groups that maybe we'll speak about later. But most importantly, we adopted one of the earliest climate action plans. It was very aggressive. We continued to refine it over the years. We developed, metrics and performance measures in every single area that we measured and kept track of. And as you know, I think in 2013 to 2015, we became the first 100% carbon neutral city in electricity generation in the United States. That's not using offsets, doing it. We worked on greening up gas and how to push all of those things out. We had a zero waste plan that was second to none. I think San Francisco's maybe a 0.5 percentage point in resource reduction compared to us also. And in the mobility sector, which is another key contributor, everything from, highest electric car uptake to electrification to aggressive and collaborative bike planning, even with our neighbors, to shift mobility. So it's sort of been this comprehensive across the board spectrum of things. And I think that ILG has been able to sort of track that progress and recognize what we did there. Yes.
Yeah, we were certainly excited to honor that through our Beacon program. So congratulations on all of that. Jim, back to you. So as a sustainability leader, what do you really believe is that kind of central element to effective climate change and action?
Well, I think it's actually Aristotle said this a long time ago. He said the city is a partnership for living well. And it's all about the partnership. You have to have effective, committed, elected political leadership as much as possible. You have to have key stakeholders in the community who are energized, or at least feel activated. And you have to have staff leadership. You have to have all of those three elements. Because I mean, the issue on making any dramatic changes is how easy it is to block or stop that change. And so you have to have all of those constituencies aligned enough to overcome the natural inertia and resistance that develops whenever you're trying to make a dramatic change, which obviously climate change and the adaptations and that we're going to have to make are as profound as anything we've had to do as human beings, really, in our time on this earth.
Absolutely agree there too. And Judy, in the long span that you've been involved in this space, have you noticed a difference in attitude toward climate change, maybe in the last 5-10 years? And how has that really affected your approach to this work?
I think that we definitely have seen a change in attitude in the last 10 years. Part of that is because we're actually experiencing it. We're seeing changes with wildfires in our state, with dramatic weather events, floods and hurricanes, and drought in California is a huge issue. So as people have actually experienced it, I think they're beginning to focus on it. And that wasn't true when I first became involved in public service back in 1999. And also in California, we passed the Global Climate Change Solutions Act, and that's AB 32 back in 2006. And California has done a lot to address climate change as a result of that legislation. So we're seeing people pay attention to that. Regulations have come down through the state that make us aware of this and what we have to do to comply. And so I think we're moving in the right direction. As Jim mentioned, he's thinking of his grandchildren. And I always think of my grandchildren as well when I think of what future we are leaving to them. That is like a real key as we're making plans now for the future that they will actually be living. And so it's a big responsibility on us and on all of us to pay attention to what's happening on our earth and with our climate change changes that are occurring now.
Thank you so much for that. That is so beautiful as all the local, state, and regional governments and federal governments celebrate Earth Day in 2022. I think that was just a really beautiful statement. And I want to thank you both so much for your time and being part of this interview. We are so lucky to have you on the board here at ILG and so appreciative of all the work that you've done throughout your very distinguished careers. Thank you both so much.
Thank you. It's been our pleasure.